Hey guys, welcome. We are going to continue on with the Civil War today. When last we met, we talked about all of the events leading up to the Civil War. We talked about the Dred Scott decision, all the political decisions that were happening in the country. And then the final straw was Abraham Lincoln being elected president. So today we're going to go into how the sides divided, the North and the South divided. Some of their strategies going into the war will be talked about this week, and then the first shots of the war. I'm going to have my highlighter, my red pen. I'm also going to have a blue and a gray crown because the North becomes the blue. They wore blue uniforms and the South wore gray uniforms. And oftentimes they're referred to as the blue and the gray. All right, so let's get started. First off, a civil war is between different groups of people in the same nation, the same country. So civil war. So other civil wars have taken place in other countries. Ours is known as the American Civil War because it took place here in America, and it was fought between the North and the South. If you want to take that blue and go North, South. And it was triggered by the election of Abraham Lincoln on top of all of those other events we talked about. Really, the election of Abraham Lincoln was kind of the final straw for the South. Okay. After Lincoln was elected, Southern states began to secede. You need to know that word. Secede from or leave the Union, the United States. From here forward, the North is known as the Union, those that still remained a part of the United States. Okay. 11 states seceded, left the United States, and formed their own government that they called the Confederacy. So the North will be known as the Union and the South will be known as the Confederacy. There's some important names here that you need to know on both sides. Of course, the president of the Union was Abraham Lincoln. He was elected. The president of the new country that the South formed, those that seceded, moved away from the United States, they appointed a new president, and his name was Jefferson Davis. So you need to know Abraham Lincoln on the north side, Jefferson Davis on the southern side, okay? The general of the Union forces, the Army, the Navy, the fighting forces is going to be Ulysses S. Grant on the northern side. Now, before Ulysses S. Grant became the general of the northern side, there was another guy, McClellan. There were several different ones, but Ulysses S. Grant is the one that we're going to zoom in on as kind of the most famous general for the North. He ended up leading the North. On the southern side, we have Robert E. Lee. So please make sure that you got those on either side highlighted and that you know where they belong, who was the president and who was a general, a fighter, leader of the armies, okay? So the United States, there was just no order here as far as like first, second, third, or fourth, because they just remained a part of the United States. These are the states that remained a part of the United States. But the Confederate states have an order because it's how they left the Union. Okay, and South Carolina was the first. South Carolina in December of 1860. So Abraham Lincoln would have been elected, and like November would have been when they voted. And South Carolina, less than a month was like, I'm out. We're done. We're going to form our own country. So South Carolina kind of started it. And then the 6 others kind of followed right behind them. These 4 here were kind of wishy-washy. They weren't really sure if they wanted to join the Confederacy or if they wanted to stay a part of the Union. And these 4 did not kind of fall out or secede until after the first shots of the Civil War at Fort Sumter. So I'm going to put a big highlight bar here. Okay. And then here in the middle of our country these guys are the border states. They're smack dab in between the North, the Union, and the South, the Confederacy. And so both the Union and the Confederacy really fought to get these border states. They really wanted them on their side. And the Confederacy really thought they would get them because these were slave states, okay? But they still didn't want to leave the Union. They still believed in being a part of the United States of America, even though they were slave states. Another really interesting thing here that you might find interesting is West Virginia. I'm going to highlight that there. West Virginia was not a state until Virginia seceded. It was a part of Virginia. And when Virginia said, we are leaving, we want to go and be a part of the Confederacy, there was a large group of people who said, we don't want to do that. We don't want to go with you. So that state actually split, and Virginia kept its name as the state in the Confederacy, and West Virginia stayed a part of the Union. So West Virginia was actually a state born out of the war, okay? So I'm going to add a couple little things here because you might hear these two sides called other things besides the Union, the Confederacy, the North, the South, some other names that you might hear. Over here, they often call the Northerns the Blue, and they also call them the Yankees, okay? If you think about it, Yankee Doodle came through the United States when we had George Washington in the Revolutionary War. Over here, these folks are rebelling against the government. They are going against the United States government. And so they are often known as the rebels. And I'm just going to come over here and I'm just going to shade a little bit of blue over on this side. And I'm going to shade a little bit of gray over here on the rebels, the blue and the gray. So you may hear them called a variety of names as you watch and learn in the coming weeks. Now, this week, you're going to be doing a lot of reading to show your understanding of what was happening in the war. This is my last round of notes with you guys this week. You will not be having an end of week quiz. Instead, your grades are going to come from how well you pay attention and learn your information during our time together. There will be 3 forms, one today, one on your next day, and one on Friday to enter in about what you've learned through your reading. Here at the bottom, you will learn about Fort Sumter on Friday. You'll do a reading passage, looks like this, on Fort Sumter on Friday. That's the first shots of the war, okay? So let's go ahead and let's look at this and highlight it. So you can see all of these guys had seceded, and then April 12th of 1861 is the Battle of Fort Sumter. And this is where the first shots of the Civil War are fired. And it was a Union fort located in the newly Confederate state of South Carolina. So there's a fort that has soldiers there in South Carolina that are Northern soldiers. So we've got Yankees in with the Confederate state of South Carolina. South Carolina is not pleased that they still have soldiers in the fort there. And they've been doing everything they can to take over forts and take over military and get rid of the Northern Yankees. Okay. And Jefferson Davis wanted the Union out of his territory and ordered that his troops take that fort. And you'll see a video, you'll find out kind of how that started, that it wasn't really like they drew battle lines and had armies come in. It really kind of started over. Lincoln was trying to get food and supplies to his soldiers there in the fort. And the Southerners took that as an act of aggression and attacked further. The fort was lost to the Confederacy. So, and after that, that was a win. That was a win for this side. So these states here were like, oh, they won. Well, maybe we should go to that side because they won. In the end, we know the Union's going to win. So they were kind of on the wrong side of history. You can see Tennessee was one of the very last, was the very last state to join the Confederacy. And Tennessee was on the wrong side of history there. They did not win. So I'm going to take my blue and my gray here. So it was a Union fort. So that would be blue. Okay. But it was located in South Carolina. South Carolina's a gray. Come on, gray. It's not showing up too good. There we go. And I'm trying not to shade it so dark I can't read my stuff. And so Jefferson Davis, he was the president of the Confederacy. Let's make sure we know him. Wanted the Union out of his territory. So it ended up the Union fort was lost to the Confederacy. So they won the fort. Not that anything was really left of the fort when they were done. You're going to read an article about that and see a cool video about it on Friday. Tomorrow or Thursday, you're going to add some notes about some battle strategies. Today, you're going to read this article about the advantages of the North, what was good, what they had coming into the war, kind of their battle strategies, and the South, what they had coming into the war and kind of their battle strategies going in. Because when you go into battle, you got to have a plan, kind of like Athena and Percy Jackson. So when you finish this and answer the questions and put them into the forms, you're going to cut out this area right here, and you're going to glue it in at the top of the page so that you have that information in your notes. Below it, on Thursday, you're going to glue in this picture and you're going to take notes. Now, the video that you're going to take notes from, he just used kind of black pen, but I added color. And so I'm going to be talking to my kids about blockade, and I'm doing that red, like you can't get through, it's blocked. And then controlling the Mississippi took out this area of the South. And then when the Union Army marched through Tennessee and came down, I added orange fire because they burned the South. They just annihilated it so that the Union could squeeze out, like an anaconda could squeeze out the South. And so you're going to be reading and watching videos and learning about that on Thursday. You're going to glue in from your workbook, page 143, and read about, see, they called it an anaconda. You're going to read about that snake, how the Union Army strategy squeezed the Southern states. You're going to answer these questions and enter those in forms. And then, like I said, on Friday, you're going to read about the first the first shots fired of the Civil War and answer questions on that and watch a really neat video on Fort Sumter and the first shots of the Civil War. And then next week, we'll get into more battles that took place after these first shots were fired. So know your people, know the strategies that they were going to use to fight each other, and learn about the first shots this week. I'll see you later. Bye, guys.